Next, an analysis of Zohran Mamdani's mayoral win and why New York has opted for a Democratic Socialist mayor. Joining us to discuss this is Keri Smith, the host of the YouTube show Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. So Keri, thank you very much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's just start here. Your thoughts on why Zohran Mamdani won the mayoral race in New York?
A couple of reasons. First of all, it is New York City, so we're talking about a very leftist city to begin with. The second reason is because people are struggling. His number one message in the campaign was affordability, and that's the thing young people, Generation Z and millennials are most concerned about, I think. And so when you become very desperate, sometimes you tend to move towards radicalism. You'll take any kind of, hope. Hope was a big part of his platform, right?
Do you think, this choice for Mamdani, right, a democratic socialist, do you think it is tied to the rise in support of socialism that we've seen in the U.S., especially among younger generations?
Yes, because unfortunately, in part because of our failed public school system, a lot of people in America don't know enough about the history of socialism. So we don't have direct experience with it. And I think for young people, the polls you're talking about are very alarming because a lot of young people are more favorable towards socialism than they are towards capitalism. And so in some ways, I almost think what's happened here in New York, this might be a very tragic future for New York City, but one that gives people an accurate idea of how socialism works in their lifetime, to see it in front of them.
And can you talk to us about how you feel faith plays into this, whether it's socialism or communism?
Yeah, so everybody believes in something. Everybody has faith in something. And I'm a Christian, and I'm a relatively new Christian within the past 8 years or so. And if you don't have a faith in God, if you don't have a faith in something that's bigger than yourself, your own ability to reason, that's bigger than the government, then you tend to put your faith in other things. And I think a lot of people on the left put their faith in government. They put their faith in government to fix their problems, government to make them happy. We've started to see tweets from politicians about how, we love you, we see you, like this sort of weird, validating kind of message. I don't need the government to tell me they love me, So I think for some people, because of a lack of faith in a creator, they've started to put that faith into institutions that are not going to be able to give you what a belief in God would give you.
And perhaps this is not a coincidence, but in countries where they use socialism or communism, you see that it's a rather not very faithful society. So I'm wondering if there's a correlation between that, a decrease in faith and a tendency to support socialism or communism.
Yes, when you say not a very faithful society, do you mean in terms of being able to see how that affects people's morality? Because I think without a faith in God, like we tend towards our baser nature. And so we start to see that in the culture, and we've certainly seen that coinciding with this growing support for socialism among young people. We've also seen this growing trend towards degeneracy.
Right, I'm just thinking as an example, China under the Chinese Communist Party's control. Mm-hmm. The CCP sees itself essentially above God.
Yes.
Right? And then it imposes that ideology down to the people. And then it has a tremendous impact on people's morality. The Chinese people's morality. So that's sort of what I'm getting at here. But I also wanted to ask you, Keri, you were once a self-described social justice warrior, and over the years, we've seen a fusion of socialism and woke ideology like DEI, for example, and critical race theory. Why are more young Americans in particular drawn to these ideas? Yeah,
I was in what I call the woke cult or the social justice cult for 20 years. One reason is that we have become disconnected from a belief in our creator, and so people are looking for something to fill that role, and a lot of young people are picking it up in academia or even now in K through 12 education. So I picked it up in, I'm quite a bit older than you, I picked it up at college.
I look young, but perhaps I'm a little bit older than you think. But anyways.
But I picked it up at college. So I was indoctrinated at Duke University in the late 90s. And at that time, it wasn't in K through 12 yet, but it was in the university system. And looking back on it, I'm able to see that the beliefs, I was being taught what to think, not how to think. And the beliefs that I picked up at university very much functioned kind of like a religion, in that woke ideology gives young people a sense of, it's like, this is how you are a good person and this is how to be a bad person. And it has a whole list of rules and tenets and beliefs that they all adopt. And what we see with some of these woke beliefs, like a belief in pushing racism and sexism with DEI, is that they are using the government. This is where the socialism part comes in, is they are using the government to now push their faith, to push their woke beliefs. That's one of the biggest reasons I ended up voting for Trump in the past 2 elections, which I never thought I would vote for a Republican, but I ended up voting for Trump, is because he eventually came out very strongly against using public taxpayer dollars to indoctrinate children and young people with these racist ideas, with these sexist ideas, with this upside down morality.
So Keri, why do you think people keep wanting to try socialism? Because if we look into history, socialism, communism, it's never worked, and we've seen that repeatedly throughout history, and we don't have to look far back either. So why do you think people they keep wanting to try this? Because just a couple decades ago, we've seen socialism fail. Does it actually change, or is it different this time? Is it rebranded, or is it the same?
One, which we've touched on already, is our public school systems are failing. So people do not know history. I went to a great school and I didn't know history. I wasn't given an accurate understanding of world history. So the other thing is that people don't read. Young people are not reading. If you look at the literacy rates, which are declining for high school graduates, there's a reason why, unless they have direct experience with it, they're not learning about it in school, they're not reading, and so unless they have direct experience with it, it sounds very good, right? Everything's free. We're going to give you everything for free. I mean, that sounds amazing. Of course, people get excited about that.
Yeah, and I was just talking to some guests before yesterday. Nothing is free.
Nothing's free.
Nothing's free. People who provide a service, they deserve to be paid. People who work, they deserve to be paid. So that money is going to come from somewhere. You can tax the rich more. That's some of the arguments being made by Mamdani as well, I think. So that leads to my next question here. We've seen how real issues like workplace abuse and segregation can be used by socialists and Marxists to push an agenda for struggle, like between the rich and the poor, right? And whites and blacks, for example. And socialist policies often target the wealthy for simply having more money or property, and Mamdani wants to increase taxes on them. Are you concerned that this issue could escalate over time into a more severe form of discrimination?
I am, because what it is you're creating a scapegoat, and you're saying the reason for your position in life is because of this group here. And when you do that, you're kind of fueling people's resentment, and you're taking away their belief in their own ability to affect the changes they want to see in their life. And so the other thing is that scapegoat group, if you look at history, continues to broaden. Okay, so it starts off with billionaires, then millionaires, then, the standard of living here in the United States, a lot of these people, the leftists, have not traveled outside of the US. We live like royalty. I mean, we have compared to some parts of the world. And so to some people, you are the billionaire class. Do you know what I mean? Like we have, we have running water, we have electricity,
things we take granted.
The things we take for granted, exactly. And so that scapegoat group always gets bigger. And the other thing is that it's not just that with socialism, as you said, nothing is free, right? Somebody's going to pay for it. But often they don't, what they're doing by putting all the focus on taxing the rich is they're obfuscating the fact that you are going to pay for it too. In a variety of ways, like, and if you don't pay for it, your children are going to pay for it, because what we see over and over again with socialism is that it leads to food shortages. When you put the government in control of these things and freezing rent and taking over the means of production, that the average person ends up paying for it. You don't end up in a better place. Maybe you bring everybody down to where you're at, or worse.
Yeah, and it destroys incentives as well.
Yes.
If they're telling you your best is not going to be rewarded, then you won't try your best, right? And that's one of the shortcomings of putting a higher tax on the rich. Then you just lose the incentive to try your best, I think.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Just this year, I didn't know about the history of the income tax, for example, in the U.S., and I was reading some of the history about when they instituted the income tax here in America. And I think it was around 1914 or 1919. And at the time, the politicians were promising the American people, look, we're going to start taxing your income. It's never going to go above 1%. And now that seems so crazy knowing where it's at today. So this whole idea of like, once you open the door to these things to not being able to keep the fruits of your labor, it seems like they continue to take more and more of it.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to wrap up here, but I want to ask you one more question. What would you say could help to bring more about constructive solutions that uphold the equality and freedom of our founding fathers and what they envisioned?
A better education. And so what I tell parents, I talk to a lot of parents about their kids who are about to go off to college or they're at that age, about what's happening at the universities with woke indoctrination. And my advice recently has been, be very careful about what college you're sending your kids to. There's a great one that I recommend usually is Hillsdale. But especially for parents who have younger children, take them out of the public schools. I wouldn't trust you're sending them to the government to indoctrinate them. So I would say find a way to, either homeschool or find a classical school, a private school, a Christian school. If you look at the SAT scores and the literacy rates for publicly educated young people versus those who are being homeschooled and in these private alternatives, the public school is failing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're so right about education. It could really solve a lot of problems in our society if we just tell our next generation what is correct, what is the right thing to do, and what is the wrong thing to do, and give them a sense of morality, a moral compass. I think that would really do society well, and it could solve a lot of issues. Well, Keri, it was such a pleasure to speak with you today. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you so much.